One of our favorite companies to work with here in Rhode Island is Holliston Sand. They are an elite provider of sand and natural stone products based in North Smithfield, Rhode Island. The team, Paul and Carmine there at Holliston Sand, are phenomenal. Amazing business people, and they asked us to step in and help rebrand the company, give them a platform to stand on as an identity, develop their website design and video production. It's a really good case study to see all of the things that we are capable of doing and doing well. And it's in a product as kind of mundane as sand, or mundane as one would think as sand. When I say sand company, what comes to your mind? I know for me it was hard hats and shovels. That was kind of the first visual image that I got. And I can picture these guys wearing yellow jackets, moving sand from one place to another, or digging holes. And at best, I could, maybe it's for sandboxes that kids play in, or I don't know, beach tournaments, beach volleyball tournaments, and golf courses possibly. So it was an interesting challenge to try to make sand vibrant, fun, exciting, and rebrand this company. I thought it was going to be a huge challenge, but turns out sand is incredibly exciting on its own, and we actually had a blast in bringing the brand of Holliston to life. Carmine and the team were amazing. When we sat down together, we went through the process of how sand is mined, sorted, packaged, shipped, and where the uses are endless in applications. So here are a couple things that blew my mind. Filter media. So they are NSF certified, and every municipality in the country uses sand to filter water for tap. So when you turn your faucet on, Holliston Sand had probably something to do with it if you live in Rhode Island. This one blew my mind. Sand is actually used as traction sand, which you would think, okay, that makes sense. But airports use them year-round as traction sand because when planes land, they need a little bit more traction as they grip the tarmac. But when airports use sand, the grains of sand need to be large enough to grip the tires of a plane, but they have to be small enough to pass through a jet engine without harming it. So an incredibly fine window of sand that needs to be sorted and organized, or else it wouldn't work. And Holliston is capable of this precision level of sand engineering, which is mind-blowing, and you would never think of it. And it was such a beautiful story that was never told through any of their previous marketing companies or anybody doing just a logo for them. We stepped in, we heard their story, we fell in love with it, and we were excited to retell it. So one of the first things that we did was look at where their current logo was, or the previous logo was, and try to dissect all the things that were wrong with it. And when I first saw it, I could tell right away that it was kind of an amateur designer who was working on the designs, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's pretty clean, but I could picture myself in the room when Holliston said something like, hey, we want to be a green company, and the designer says, okay, green company, and they fire back a green logo, which is okay. It's not terrible, but it's not them. They're so much more concerned with the precision and care that their product is involved with. It's not only about the green story. It can be, but it's a lot deeper than that. When I look at this logo, it just screams summer camp, or like a beach resort. It's just plain. What does the tree have to do with anything besides planting the trees after you claim the land? We go through this really extensive questionnaire process where we ask questions like, what's the company's favorite movie? What kind of colors come to your mind when we're talking about Holliston? What kind of music does the company listen to? What kind of car does the company drive? What kind of adjectives best describe the company? What talk about taglines a little bit, and mission statements, because we're trying to dive into all of the personality and the process that's already been done without anybody ever having to formalize it. Every company has a culture, and every company has a personality, just like every person has a personality. what we're trying to do is understand that personality and then talk about the best parts of it, right? It's basically like the most beautiful resume for the company that we can develop. We talked through the questionnaire together with them, and we found out a lot of amazing things. Things like they see themselves as an underdog in space. There's a few other major competitors for sand providers in the country, and they believe themselves to be a national competitor as a sand provider. And I think they could totally compete at that level. But with this brand, their current skin, they couldn't ever rise to that status. So one of the first things that we wanted to do is kind of strip away all the stuff that their old branding was about and bring a more unified, emblematic type of logo to start with, and then a much cleaner, more sturdy design palette that we can choose from. They said Rocky was one of their favorite movies. Another one was 300. So again, that underdog story was kind of coming to the surface. We knew that they were a veteran-owned company, and they really appreciated the patriotism and the Americana that is so deeply ingrained in the company. And the car questions were interesting. A Model A Ford and a Camaro were their choices. So what do these cars have to do with anything? How does that question relate at all? And the way I saw it was, well, they were both feats of American engineering, and so is Holliston Sand. They're this incredible precision-oriented, engineering-oriented obsession with getting the highest performing products possible, and that really is who Holliston is. And were we able to unveil that from these questions? No, it took a little bit more digging and prodding at them to really unearth what that was. But after we did, it was kind of a miracle process that we came out of there with. In the beginning of the branding process, we love doing a tagline study, even if tagline is something that they would never use, and they have never used it. It's a really great way to show off just the fact that we get it, and that we understand who they are. It's this short phrase that comes after the name of the company that tries to explain it all immediately. And the shorter it is, the more clever it can be. Fantastic. It kind of sings and fires on all cylinders. It's great. So for Holliston, we had 3 really good examples of tagline. Holliston Sand Precision Granular Engineering was one of the first ones that we came up with. Why this one is interesting is because right off the bat, no longer do you think hard hats and shovels, right? When you hear precision granular engineering, you think lab coats and goggles, and you think about the care and the dedication that they pour into every grain of sand that comes out, and we love that way of thinking about Holliston. So precision granular engineering was great, but it's a little bit of a mouthful. So this next one is actually my favorite. Holliston Sand Particle Perfect. Has the alliteration, kind of cheeky, because it just kind of rolls off the tongue. But this idea of perfection and precision, the things that scared Holliston the most was they're not at that level of silica provision yet. So they want to be, and they will be in the future. But today they don't do clear glass. They're not in pharmaceuticals, but it's something that they're looking into. So the word precision scared them. They didn't want to kind of promote themselves as this kind of elite, cleanest only type of sand. So we moved on to this third example, and when we read it out loud, it was like a breath of relief in the room, because it just rang so true for them. Holliston Sand, the element in every day. And it still has a little bit of the alliteration, but that feeling of every day is so homey and so comforting that it made sense for Holliston. It was they were a company that wanted to let people know that, hey, sand is so vital to everyone's existence. Don't forget about us. And we're the ones that are promoting it and touting it, and we are a clear choice in providers of high quality sand. So the element in every day is a fantastic tagline that they are now using as even a sales pitch when people ask them, so what is Holliston Sand? What do you guys do? and they say it's the element in every day. It's part of your everyday being. So the logo isn't the only thing in the branding study, but it is surely one of the most important things. So we take a lot of time and attention in crafting the logo for the company. We started the same way for Holliston, like we do for all of our companies, by hand. We started all of our ideas on paper and started to investigate who Holliston was and how they wanted to show themselves off to the new public. We go through these hand sketches for a solid day or two, sometimes longer, and we start to get ideas about mark and what that single unifying symbol might be. We move on to typography. It's a big part of my background. I taught typography at New England Tech, and it was a major part of my MFA studies at Savannah College of Art and Design. And so understanding and knowing that an entire personality can be summed up in a typeface, because some people use word marks, just that typeface to convey the brand of a company. We think, it has so much personality on its own. We take a lot of care and precision into choosing the right typeface that's going to explain who Holliston is. And then of course we move to digital designs. So we take those hand sketches, we take that type study, and then we start to combine them together digitally. And we start to see what works, what shapes are working, how it might move in space. And we try not to think about color in the preliminary. We do everything, all the shapes in black and white, because if your brand isn't working in a single color, then it doesn't work. For Holliston, when we initially did the digital drafts of the mark, some really interesting ways that we played around with the H shape was the scene of sand falling into a pile, whether it was abstractly told through a rectangle signifying a back of a truck, or whether it was a triangle showing off the pyramid where the sand falls down into. Really interesting shapes, kind of telling the story of Holliston sand, and still using that H, which is kind of a mark that a lot of companies use their initial, but a mark that they've used in the past, and so it's familiar to them, and has that kind of bit of personality that they were lacking in their current logo. After we do the digital sketching, we start to dive into the recommendations of what we might see their brand kind of revolve around. Those past digital sketches were laying a little flat, so we started to develop the actual recommendations of where we wanted to see the brand go. We gave each of these directions a name. The first one is one that they liked the best, actually, and we called it the Burst. And you can see it's an arrangement of different size circles that create this abstract shape, but a beautiful burst or star shape. And in an abstract way, it's really telling what Holliston does. It takes these different size granules of sand and they arrange them into these different categories and then sell them as products for lots of different applications. So immediately it kind of tells that precision story without necessarily having to say precision. It was the team's favorite example, but we'd like to show a really great one in the beginning, but it wasn't the best one we had. The next design that we wanted to show Holliston was something we called the Build, and this is an arrangement of different size granules, and not so much in this perfect shape, but a very organic shape that formed that ubiquitous H that they have used in the past. And the formation is actually hand-placed granules that I did by hand. And so when you form these smaller circles, they form this natural-looking H, or this very stern-looking H. And there's no straight edges in the entire shape. The straight edges are actually optical illusions caused by adjacent tangents. So the different size granules are being aligned so tightly that it looks like a perfect Helvetica H. And they liked it a lot, but the mark was actually starting to lose flavor when it was shrunk in small sizes, and great logos should work in small sizes. So we left it aside and said, this is a good direction. We wouldn't show anything that they couldn't use, but we thought we had something better. So we moved on to this last direction, which again was this arrangement of circles, this time symmetrical circles that are forming this H shape. It's showing that precision element without necessarily having to say it. But when we just had the circles forming this H shape, it really laid flat when you looked at it. It didn't have this kind of class or elegance to it, but it was a little dim. But kept digging at it in the design sense, and something magical happened when we put this shape into a larger circle. So we use the arrangement as a negative in a larger dark circle. We call this direction the pan, because in the world of sand there is kind of one way that you sift different size granules of sand. It's through a sifting pan. And the sifting pan is a circular tool that basically has a mesh screen of different gauges, and it allows smaller size sand to sift through, and that's how you get those different classifications of sand. And this is what they did all day. And not only did this shape represent a sifting pan, but it also talked about the precision alignment of those individual sand granules, creating that company, the H shape. But also, the largest circle can be seen as a single grain of sand that is stamped with the Holliston H. And it's almost signifying that not a single grain of sand leaves this place without our stamp of approval on it, saying that this is an approved grain of sand. Is it a bit of a stretch to say these things? Maybe, but they're all true, and they're all really deep ways of looking at how a single mark can tell the story of the precision and care and dedication that a company puts into their product. And Holliston is one of the best examples of this. They love what they do, and they're all about trying to get the best quality product in front of the people that need it the most. And we thought that the pan was a winner. They loved the burst, and it was really interesting to see how those two marks could live together through proof of concept. By far, my favorite part of the branding exercise is the proof of concept. And proof of concept is taking that chosen direction of where we were going with the logo and the mark, and really expounding the creative process and the branding identity through all the collateral that's going to be used to the company that tells the story of who the company is, even though it might just be like a preliminary look into what the actual elements might be. It is a really incredible stage to hear what the company sounds like, to play around with copy a little bit, to see how the logos work in real space, to use preliminary investigation of colors. Really great way to showcase how that branding is going to live in the real world. We moved on to showcase business collateral. So for Holliston, we knew that the team there liked the burst, and we were recommending the pan. And so one of the first things that we wanted to do in proof of concept was see how these two logos and marks and directions can live together. They probably don't work when you combine them. But the burst, because it was so abstract, works really well as a branding element, and the pan as the mark of the company. When we saw this initial business card, we both said, "Eureka! This is it. It works perfectly together. Let's start to use it." Business cards are kind of the final frontier of printed materials, because there's so many more people doing digital these days, that we like to spend a little extra time in considering and thinking about how the business cards are going to be impactful for the company. For Holliston, it was this moment when around the table, the creative team said, well, why not sandpaper? Because they're a sand company. So we flirted around with different sandpaper ideas. We pitched it to Holliston, and they said, "Yeah, this is amazing. If you guys can do it for cheap." We are now experts in sandpaper and the different grits that it takes, and what's capable to print on, etc. Finally found a vendor that was willing to silk screen on sandpaper, and we got these printed. They look fantastic. it's one of those key pieces that Holliston still uses today as an amazing differentiator for them. It's a conversation starter for their new clients and their existing clients. They love it, and we had a blast bringing this to life. Of course, we show different printed elements like hats and shirts and even bus signage. Will they ever run a bus campaign? Probably not, but it's just really nice to see their logo working in the real world. So we love showing that off. But my favorite place to showcase a brand identity study is through magazine advertisements, and there's a few different reasons. We get to play around with copy and hear what the company sounds like for the first time. We get to see how images work in conjunction with the marks. Ads for us really showcase that we get the company and we have vision for how the story is going to be told through all their customers and whoever interacts and comes in contact with this company. For Holliston, we wanted the voice to sound a little bit more sophisticated, so not Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, but it probably is more like Ryan Gosling or Brad Pitt and George Clooney. So it still is very masculine and manly feeling, but it's not caveman type. The copy we wanted to play with had to be cheeky, bold. It had to be very stern, but it wasn't ever aggressive or in your face. And one of the biggest challenges that we had for developing ad copy for Holliston was for golf courses, because if you play golf, you know that the sand pit, the bunker, isn't the place that you want to be. So how do you sell sand to golf players who know that sand is kind of the devil when it comes to golf? And here's what we came up with. Golf will be boring without us. We've been making things interesting since 1953. Another tagline for the same ad that we were thinking was, sorry Tiger, maybe next time. To the other 290 golfers in the PGA Tour, you're welcome. Yeah, playing around with the idea that sand is a pivotal part of the game. It's what makes it challenging, it's what makes it fun. Golf would be boring without us. That's Holliston Sand. And Holliston does provide hundreds of golf courses with the exact bunker sand media that they need for a beautiful golf game. But they also provide sand for Gillette Stadium and Fenway Park, some of the most reputable teams here in New England. So for the Patriots, we thought it'd be interesting to promote. We help the Patriots stand tall, literally. It's the foundation of this championship team, per se. This one's one of my favorites. We work hard so that when you turn your faucet, you can trust what comes out. That's Holliston Sand. That's what we're all about. That is the care, attention, and the passion that we bring to this seemingly mundane product. I think this ad kind of sums it all up for the brand. And the type treatment here is really important. We're using a condensed Helvetica, and that stern, harsh type, but clean type is kind of overmarked in this beautiful, luxurious image of water turning from a faucet. And it looks beautiful, but it sounds incredibly dramatic and impactful, which is exactly what we want for Holliston. And this ad is great because it's true. You can't FedEx 15 tons of sand. Holliston Logistics is their shipping company that delivers tons of sand every day. And already from these ads, you immediately get the sense that this company has been around forever, that they are a major competitor. Just by the way that they sound and the way that they look, it looks really polished and buttoned up. Since the branding exploratory, we've got to do some incredible work for them. Of course, rehashing their website from this really bland old site to this fun, dynamic, large-scale site, getting to write interesting copy like we've been waiting millions of years to bring you an amazing product. So again, has that kind of boldness and a bit of the cheekiness, but still very solid feeling, and has a bit of an attitude, but definitely not in your face. It's not aggressive or obtrusive, but it feels firm and it feels like they know what they're talking about. We've got to do some print advertising in their trade magazines and some banner advertising for festivals, and this large-scale banner that they hang over one of their main silos on premise. And the story really solidifies when you watch their video, which we had the privilege of doing for them not only their overview video, but also for customer testimonials. We got to visit their actual customers who use their sand on a daily basis. And we got to see this process that those customers go through in taking this high quality product and putting it to real world application and use. We started offering video as one of our core services because we believe that it's one of the best ways that you can tell this creative story to an audience and showcase what that product or service is all about in such a short amount of time. And we've been seeing such incredible successes from it, from not just Holliston and medium-sized companies like them, but also from startups, videos that we've done for Endera, for promotional videos that we've done, trade show videos, and videos like this one showcases the entire process to an audience who's hungry to hear how exactly creative processes unfold. Today, Holliston continues their marketing efforts with us on a monthly basis for design, for SEO, video, web, and now their salespeople have this incredible arsenal of creative material that they can put in front of potential clients. They can see how incredible that this company is. So some of the things that they've done recently are sample boxes for potential engineers who are using their material and want to keep some on hand, sales binders that we're producing, and also for SEO efforts. Before they met us, they were on page 4, 5, or 6 as a sand provider. It was so bad that people in New England couldn't find them as a provider of sand. They were buying sand from like Tennessee and having it shipped up to New England when there is an amazing provider here just in their backyard. And today they're ranking page 1. They're first for things like purchase high quality sand. They're first for New England Sand Company. They're first for these awesome keywords that people are searching for. And today they're in the same conversation as these national competitors like US Silica and Fairmont Mineral and Red Flint. And they're getting found by companies who need their product even from overseas, like in Singapore and in Southeast Asia. I'd like to say we have a lot to do with the resurgence, but it really is just a testament that every company has this incredible story to tell, and we feel privileged that we got to be a part of telling that story for a company as great as Holliston, because they had all of the right ingredients to be able to rebrand themselves as this incredibly confident, competent company, and we had the flashlight and showed them the way. And it was an amazing process and experience, and we're excited to work with Holliston as we continue to move forward in unearthing, what's next in their marketing process and what kind of industries that they're going to be a part of tomorrow.